Real stories with bold creatives. CAPTN OffScript Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the CAPTN OffScript Podcast. My today's guest doesn't really need an introduction. He's been in graphic design for so long. He's done everything you can imagine. He's worked on projects we all dream about, from Olympic Games to big brands. And he's published so many things. He's also the founder of LogoLounge. Everyone knows that. And my today's guest is Bill Gardner. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Alan, what a treat to be with you. I'm always a little bit skeptical when somebody introduces me as having been in business so long that you want to kind of cut me in half and count the rings like a tree.
No,
and see,
No, it's the perspective is important,
It's a good so long. Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's truly a pleasure to have you here with me today. We just chatted before starting record button about Madrid and cool places in Madrid. And Bill, you mentioned 40 years ago you were here?
No, I said about 4 years ago.
4 years. Okay.
No,
4.
If it had been 40 years ago, I wouldn't have been smart enough to have known what I was looking for.
No, okay. No, 4 years ago.
I will tell you that when I go to a one of my favorite things is that I love to antique, but I love to go to markets or brocants or the like. And while I was there was a enormous street market going on. In Madrid.
El Rastro.
And I will tell you that I just walked my ass off. It was a delight. There was a lot of crap, but there was some good stuff in there too. So
that's so true. I mean, it's so good. I mean, it's not a standard tourist thing to do in Madrid, but it's a market every Sunday, I think. It's a beautiful thing, you can actually find some.
It was worthwhile. And actually what it did was it took me into an area where I found some antique stores that I actually bought a couple of things from them that are treasures of mine from Madrid. So beautiful
Amazing. City. That's really cool. Yeah. Madrid has its own thing. I would say it's quite different from a lot of other cities, and I think it's kind of has its own soul.
It does. I've traveled throughout so I'm in Wichita, Kansas, which is dead in the middle of now it's not dead. It's just in the center of the United States. It's about as middle of it as you can possibly get. But my wife and I do a lot of traveling. So especially throughout Europe. And when we had a visit over in Madrid, I think it was about 4 years ago. It was just a spur of the moment thing with some friends, but it was just magical and really enjoyed it.
I'm glad to hear that. I've been living in Madrid since 2018, and it's really, for me, the most beautiful place in the world.
Where were you before?
I was born in Bosnia. Yeah, I was living in Bosnia. Yes.
Yeah, which also is beautiful.
Yes, it has really beautiful cities and beautiful nature. But honestly, I've never felt at home anywhere else except in Madrid. I don't know why, but, people always feel kind of a nostalgia and everything towards their home place, birthplace. I have that with Madrid. So, yeah.
That's cool. I can see how that can happen.
It's really beautiful. I mean, I came here with my husband for a vacation for 7-10 days. We were here, and I said, okay, we are moving here. It was just like that decision, and a year later we moved. So yeah, quite perfect.
Sometimes things like that happen for a purpose. That's cool.
Yeah, and we loved it really ever since. So that's a good thing.
That's cool.
So Bill, there's not that many things that people don't know about you. But what I found interesting is that actually you are the territorial vice president of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, which is kind of really cool to me. Tell me about it.
So I was years ago.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So I put my way through college doing magic. That was my
Okay.
vocation, if you will, and it was a good way to make money and to entertain people. And there are two kinds of entertainment. There are two types of people that watch magic. There are the ones that just want to be amazed, and there are the other ones that feel like they're being challenged, and they're
Okay.
very different. So the first thing you have to do is kind of suss out which type of person you're dealing with in there, because you treat them very differently. The person that is feeling challenged, you have to let them know that you're not trying to make them look stupid. Um, the person who just likes to be amazed is the most wonderful person to deal with. When I was probably 17 years old
Oh,
and
wow.
finishing high school, uh, I saw a magic performance that was put on in my high school. And it was actually a convention where magicians came from all over the United States, but it just happened to be in the auditorium
Oh,
of
wow.
my high school. And I don't know that I've shared this story, so I'll share it. Uh, I was heavily involved in theater at the time and was stage manager. So I had a key to the auditorium. And I was there during the performance. But then after the show, one of the magicians left all of his equipment there to come back later and pick it up. So I started going through the equipment, lifting doors, and kind of seeing how things worked. And within probably 2 days' time, one of the cheerleaders and I were putting on performances of the illusions for whoever would come into the auditorium and watch, mostly the custodial staff. But
Okay.
it was kind of a bad boy way of getting into magic, because I was using other people's equipment and I shouldn't have been. But man, it hooked me. And I figured, in one of the terrible things about magic is that once you realize a couple of principles, you can figure anything out.
Okay.
But that also means that it spoils the magic of magic for you. That now you've entered the field of performing it as opposed to being amazed by it. And I joined an organization called the International Brotherhood of Magicians, whose initials are IBM. So whenever I tell
IBM.
people that I was the vice president of IBM, they
IBM
always kind
that.
of go, "No, really? That's great. Tell me about it."
Yeah.
But there was a gentleman here who had a store not more than about probably 100 yards or 100 meters down the street from where I am right now,
Okay.
called Stephen's Magic Emporium. And he was kind of the godfather of magic in the world to some degree. He was able to find every old piece of magic, every prop. He knew every magician that was out there. And because of that, he ended up putting on magic conventions around the world. And
Okay.
he took me under his arm, and he became my mentor. And we literally traveled the world putting on magic conventions with Siegfried and Roy or David Copperfield or Lance Burton or many Tamarez, who is a magician from your country, or Slidini,
Yes.
who is also I guess he's from Italy, not Spain, but
Yeah.
any number of magicians that I mean that was just how I made my vocation in college, was performing magic, going to a bar or doing a party or a bar mitzvah or a child's birthday. Uh, but it kind of gave me the ability to um, understand what amazes people,
Okay.
and that translates really well into design, because if you can build that ability for somebody to find wonder in something that they look at that is visually intriguing to them, that is a spectacle,
Yes.
then you figured out much of design. And it was just a matter of kind of transitioning my knowledge from magic over to design.
Oh, That's quite a story and quite a journey and quite the flow from one thing to another.
It was.
Yeah, I love that. And when you started with design, did you work for somebody in an agency back then, or you started your own business right away?
Yeah, and that's the Alan. I must be a terrible art director because I never had one. Um, I,
Me neither.
I
Me
didn't
neither.
really. How are you as an art director?
Well, horrible, I guess.
Okay, okay. The
Yeah,
good
yeah.
news is that I've got this amazing team of designers that have worked for other people. No,
Yeah.
that and really the work that we produce here at Gardner Design is very team oriented, and it's a studio of about 10 folks on a good day, and
Okay.
it's been that size ever since I started. I didn't. When I graduated from college, I actually had 2 degrees at that point. I started
Okay.
out thinking I was going into business, so I acquired a business degree. And then I decided, I'm not done with school yet. And I didn't want to go into the family business. So I decided to pursue a degree in design since I knew that I had some artistic skills. And at that point, I ended up with 2 degrees, a fine arts degree and a business degree.
Oh,
And
very useful.
I, yeah. So what do you do with that? I guess
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
push design and business together, and you've got them both. That I started to go out and hunt for a job as a designer, and most people knew me for my magic. So I would show them my portfolio, and they would go, gosh, great stuff, great stuff. Show me a trick." And
Oh,
then I realized, okay, I've got to put away the magic so that I can focus on design because everybody still was looking for the magic. And so I started freelancing and approaching a number of folks that I knew, or approaching clients that I thought needed, to have some identity work done. And that was really my focus from the very beginning. Was I loved logos and I loved identity work. Um, and pretty soon I found myself hiring another individual to, help take on some amount of the work, and that led to another person, and then I had a business. It just kind of happened. Sometimes
okay.
that's the best way for things to happen, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was just recording another episode earlier today with David Ayery from
Yeah.
Ireland. And we were I was telling him that I really got completely accidentally in logo design and website and branding. I was studying
Really?
civil engineering and had nothing to do with logo and design and anything. And then a friend asked me to build a website for him. And I said, well, you know what? I can give it a try, you know. So, yeah. And it
That's how it
started like
happens,
that.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's by an accident, I guess, but I'm really happy I'm where I am today. So it's a
And
perfect
you
thing.
should, and you should be. And by the way, David is just an exceptional individual and a friend,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
just yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
How did you
absolutely.
come to call it Captain OffScript?
Well, first of all, off script, because as you know, there are no questions. I
Yep.
send nothing to anyone. And captain, well, captain in my language, in Bosnian, my surname is translation to English is son of a captain.
Okay.
So
So what is
captain,
what is what is that surname?
it's Kapetanovic.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like son of a captain translated to English. And I wanted
Capitan.
to go with that. It sounded unique and sounded different. So yeah,
I love it.
that's thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I started it as a blog, podcast about typography. It was the type convo for the first season.
Okay.
But like after 3 episodes, I figured I talk about everything except the typography. So we did a rebrand this year, and the second season is going as Captain OffScript. Yeah,
I love the name. It works well for you, and it has a good tie back to you. So that's perfect.
yeah, yeah. That's what I wanted. Yeah, thank you. Um, your agency, Gardner Designs, it's also, but as you said, you started almost by accident. Would you say that it was different or more difficult to start an agency when you did comparing to now, or do you see any major differences?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll make this comment, Alan. I've always considered myself to be the luckiest individual on earth. I've been very fortunate in my life that things that I've started or done or been involved with, we've had great success with, and I'm very thankful for that. But I will say that timing is really important in our lives, isn't it? You know, when you think about the decisions that you've made or the things that you've done in your life, probably timing has had more to do with their success or failure than anything else. And so it's important to know the right time. But we don't always know the right time. It just starts. And when I started, literally, Gardner Design started in 1983. And a few people know this because it's been written before, but the original name was Gardner's Graphic Hands, which is absolutely the worst name in the world. And considering we do a lot of nomenclature and naming, I'm shy to tell people that. But when I started doing freelance, everything was being done manually. There were no computers. The way that we were producing things, print was king, and now digital is king. CMYK was king. Now RGB is king. If I wanted to have typeset, I had to go to a typesetter who did have computers that were setting type by entering code as opposed to actually, WYSIWYG typing in and seeing what they were typing. So it was dramatically different. And we would, I would have to know my type well enough to spec out, what I was looking for and how tightly I wanted it kerned or what kind of leading I wanted. And, and it would come back and I'd look at it and I'd kind of go, is that about right? And I had to pay for it regardless because I had spec'd it.
Yeah.
So it was dramatically different in that period of time. When I was designing a logo, I would hand draw it. And then I would come back and I would use amberlith, which nobody knows what that is, but it's an acetate sheet covered with a film that is amber colored. And I would literally take a X-Acto knife and I would cut the shape using all kinds of templates, to make sure my lines were straight, and then you'd go to a composite camera and photograph that and then reduce that down to whatever size it was going to be used. So it was a very different process. And I'm not trying to romanticize that period of time, but because the computer has made it so easy for and the different platforms and software that we have, are designed, fortunately, to build ease and complexity into what we're doing and to allow us to do things that couldn't have been done, at one time, and that's great. But it also means that we have many, many, many more people in our field than there were when I started out. And I'll also share that when I was starting, I joined with a couple of other designers that were in my same community that had a desire to associate with other designers. And we started the AIGA chapter, American Institute of Graphic Arts chapter here in Wichita. They weren't expecting Wichita. Wichita is a small city compared to these very large cities that had chapters. But we were very voracious and had a good appetite, and we dove into it. And I was the first president of the AIGA chapter here, which meant that I was traveling around the country, visiting the other chapters, going to conferences with them. And at the time, so Michael Beirut was the president of the New York chapter. Ricky Werman was president of the chapter in Boston, or Kit Heinrichs and Michael Vanderbilt was in San Francisco, and all of these folks that I considered the gods of the time to me. And Michael's a peer of mine, that it gave me the opportunity to develop strong relationships with them. And you just don't have those opportunities now, that that ability, because the community has gotten so large. And it's not to say that that's bad. It's just a matter of it's more challenging for somebody to make their mark in. At the time that I started up LogoLounge, which is just that kind of side ancillary part of it. It's not, they're two separate corporations, but I'm in a 2-story old building, and LogoLounge is upstairs. So the time that I started that, it was right after eBay had started. It was 1995 was, I think, when eBay started. And that was when I first got the idea for LogoLounge. It was the fact that somebody in Madrid could have a teapot that they wanted to sell, and they could take a photo of it, and they could upload it, and they could put some verbiage with it that was searchable, and somebody could find that teapot and many other teapots and interact. And I was kind of going, I love books, and I've got hundreds of logo catalog books that I would go through, or our designers would go through, hunting reference and post-it noting everything. And I was going, I'll bet you could take those logos and have people upload them to a site with the words, using the thoughts behind eBay. And that was the foundation for how LogoLounge came about. But it was also at the beginning of the use of the internet. And had my timing been, I'd been thinking about it for about 3 years before technology caught up to the point where I could actually, do it. But if my timing had been a year later, then somebody else might have developed that critical mass before me. My wife tells me that ideas are not yours, that ideas are going to float around, and they're going to come to you, and you have the opportunity to act on them. But if you don't, they're going to move on to Alan or someone else, and they will act on them. So, when you have an idea, if you don't act on it, chances are somebody else is going to act on it sooner than later.
Very soon, very fast. Yeah. No, I actually think I read that in a book. Oh my God, I cannot remember now. I think the book is called.
Yeah, I'm sure it came from somebody else. It was their idea, and they shared it.
A Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I think it's that book. And it says that
she is the one that you've got to attest that to. Yep.
Yeah. And it says the same thing, like ideas are right there. Yep. If you act on it, it's good. But if you don't, someone else will. Yeah.
Yep. It's somebody else's idea.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. I love that. And how did you go from a small studio in Wichita to working on with the biggest brands in the world, and what was even most amazing to me, working with the Olympic team for the Olympic Games in Atlanta?
And I've got to clear that up, because it was actually the Athens Games.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, and that's fine. And the identity for the Athens game was actually done by Wolf Owens and Red Design, which is out of Greece. And but at the time, what they did was multiple years in advance of the Athens Olympics, they reached out to a handful of firms internationally to propose identities for it and paid us to each develop our own direction for it. And mine was not selected, but it was an honor to be one of the firms that was selected to
To
submit
work
for it.
on it.
And it was a beautiful design that we did for it, and I liked it. But I also love what was done for the Athens Olympics, and I thought it was very fresh and right for it. But your question about how we came to work with larger clients, Alan, again, fortuitous. Sometimes things just kind of fall in our laps, and sometimes they fall in our laps because we've laid the proper groundwork for them. And we probably laid the proper groundwork, and I had developed relations with folks that moved forward within larger corporations as their marketing directors. Thermos Corporation was a good friend of mine who had been at Coleman Corporation here and moved forward into their marketing position. And I had worked for both places and ended up doing that. Pizza Hut, which I don't, did they have any Pizza Huts in Spain?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not
I
sure.
wouldn't terribly blame you if they didn't, but
Okay.
Pizza Hut, which is the world's largest, it's owned by PepsiCo now,
Yes.
but is one of the world's largest franchises. And it was actually started by a couple of fraternity brothers of mine here in Wichita. So they're much older than I am, but at the time they had brought on a number of their friends and given them franchise districts around the world, or they purchased franchise districts. And that meant that there were a lot of people that were relatively well-to-do that were affiliated with Pepsi and Pizza Hut and brought us in to work on those just because of our reputation for the kind of work that we do. And it's all really incredibly solid corporate identity. We've just been courted by any number of major corporations that are looking for that particular level of design. Again, I wish I could tell you that there was
There is a
a magic
secret.
secret to it, but
Yeah. Okay. I guess by the end of the interview, we'll get to your magic secrets, to how things are done. But yeah, we'll get there. Do you have any of all the projects you did? Do you have any specific that is maybe a favorite of yours still? Or is it hard to pick?
it is. And again, keep in mind that we've got so many really tremendous designers that have worked here, that have gone on or that are part of this team today, and that my favorite work is really looking at their work. It's when I may be involved in a project and do some design, and then they walk in with something that just hits me over the side of the head, and I'm going, "This is genius," And so a few people here know this, but I cry really easy it's just tear up. Let's call it that, when I'm proud of somebody and what they've done. And they'll walk in and show me something, and I'll sit there and I'll start going, "That's beautiful, man. This is amazing,"
Okay.
But from a personal perspective, sometimes the projects that have the most meaning to me are a vast majority of what we do is actually rebranding. And that means that we're working with entities, corporations, organizations that have had success and had strong success. And usually they have their own marketing or design department, but they recognize that branding is not their forte. And maybe over a period of time, they've lost their direction a little bit, or through poor stewardship, or for any number of reasons, where they originally set their arrow for who their client was, the client has moved. It's the who moved my cheese scenario. And so because of that, I think I take the greatest joy in probably those projects where we're able to reset the needle for companies that have a strong legacy, or they have equity in their brand, but it needs to be massaged so that it performs better. I'll share a project here with you. So, in the United States, the largest grocery chain is called Kroger's. And it is a company which is based out of Cincinnati, but it has over the years purchased regional grocer chains. And they have approximately, I think, 3,600 locations across the United States. I mean, these are large supermarkets, but they've been smart in that when they purchase a chain, they don't go in and rename it Kroger's. They keep whatever the name is. So it might be City Market, or here it's Dillon's, or it might be Ralph's on the West Coast, or any number of different names. But they're owned by Kroger. And over a period of time, they had acquired what are called C-stores, or convenience stores, which were attached to some of these chains. Convenience store, it's usually has a fuel island where you can gas up your car, pop in with a very limited merchandise, not a supermarket, but just a quick store that you can pop into and get a drink or a coffee, or a snack. But they had acquired about 1,000 convenience stores over this period of time, but they were under multiple names and multiple brands and identities and visuals. And if you were in Florida, you were going to a Tom Thumb, or a Turkey Hill in Pennsylvania, or a quick shop here, or a Loaf and Jug in the Rockies, and I didn't name these, or a Quick Stop in California, but nobody had any idea that there was some connectivity to it. So from a brand perspective, Kroger understood that they had challenges with purchasing, because they couldn't purchase napkins that, said one name across all of them, or one logo across all of them. They couldn't sign up health plan contracts that covered everybody. They had to do it by division. Any number of reasons, as you can imagine. And Kroger also understood that C-stores weren't really their main business, and that ultimately they wanted to get out of C-stores. So it was a matter of, how do we build the value in this hodgepodge chain of 1,000 units so that it has the value that we can sell it. So we literally flew across the U.S. and from coast to coast, visiting these stores and trying to pull together an identity that would service all of them. So they kept their name of each of the divisions, but we developed a word mark that for each division that had commonality. And we developed a logo, which I'm sure you could find if you look up Kroger C-stores, which is this diamond shape, which has 4 little colored elements popping into it, which the negative space in the middle is the shape of the United States. And we went in and redesigned the stores and established a new look for them, designed with the architects what their new stores would look like, designed the gas canopies out in front of the fuel islands, designed the dispensaries inside of the store, and just everything about it, brought it under one umbrella, so that if you were traveling across the United States, you may not recognize the name, but you would go, oh, I know these people. they've got a store in Florida, and I'm in Pennsylvania now or Kansas, but I know them, and I know their quality is going to be good. So ultimately, after this rebrand and about 8 years of application, Kroger sold that chain for $2.6 billion. And it was a big coup for them to have developed that amount of equity in this chain to be able to sell it to a European company, frankly, that wanted to, come into the market and the likes.
Okay.
So that was a long story, but it shows that very little of that story was me talking about what the logo looked like. It was talking about, the intelligence that we have to have in knowing what the objectives are for a rebrand and not just drawing a pretty picture. How it's going to work in multiple markets, how it's going to be applying it across the breadth and developing the visual vocabulary, so on and so forth. So there's an example of one of my favorite projects just because of the depth of it.
Do you think that actually today young designers are maybe too focused on how it looks than if it actually works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You?
Yeah.
It's
Same, honestly. Yeah. I mean, not always. Not always. You have some really great young designers from all over the world. I've had the opportunity to talk to some of them, but honestly, there's a vast majority of people who just, and I'm not judging if they want to do that and if their client loved that. Who am I to say no? But
yes.
a lot of people are actually in the business of making beautiful logos.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it that way.
And it's not that I don't admire beautiful logos, and oftentimes those
Of
beautiful
course.
logos work really well because they have been thought through, and they do have that degree of foundation that allows them to function really, really well. I think that it's true going back into history that there are. There's a difference between being a good designer from the practical perspective of designing something, but the people that we brought onto our team and that others bring onto their teams, because there's so much really strong branding going on now that people understand that you're hiring different disciplines. You're not just looking for somebody who can draw a pretty picture.
Yes.
And there's probably no worse thing to hear than have a designer who's making a presentation to a corporation, and they say, "Well, tell me why that logo works," and they go, "Well, I like it," and well, good. But tell me why. Tell me why it's going to work, because we're going to invest millions of dollars in this, and we need to know that it's going to have its return. And so just to be clear, when you're talking about many young designers, I think that we all start out wanting to draw things pretty.
Of course. Of course.
It's only natural.
Absolutely.
And I think that we acquire with time some sageness and some wisdom that helps us to better understand that it's not just about whether I like it or whether my client likes it, but whether it is the right thing for my client's customers, and
Absolutely.
if it sends the right message to them. And but and I don't want to get deep here, but I'm gonna for just a second, because I have that business background and also that design background. One of those is objective, and one is subjective. And it's important for designers to get this because some people just don't get objective and subjective. Objective is that if the CFO of a company brings in 12 accountants and gives them a column of numbers, they should all come up with the same answer. Some may come up with it quicker than others, but they should all come up with the same answer. If they hire 12 designers to come in and give them the same problem, all 12 will come up with a different solution. They may be amazing solutions and they may be fabulous, all 12 of them, but guaranteed nobody's going to come up with the same idea. That's subjective. And our need, our objective as designers is to find a way to make subjectivity meet objectivity. And when we're able to do that, we can assure the client that we have done our best to answer the challenges that we've laid forth in whatever brief we've put together before we get into a job that we both agree are our objectives for the job. And the vast majority of our time on any project are spent at the front end before we ever start to create any visuals, establishing what those objectives are for this project, what they want to achieve. And that's done through a discovery process that we go into that is deep and long, but is very complete. And it ultimately kind of sets a foundation for that company from a marketing perspective, because it helps them understand who their clients are and why they respond to the triggers. And I use that word because it's true, that people respond to. There is science here. It's not just pretty because it's pretty. It's pretty for a reason.
Okay, that's a really good one. I would say that designers who are just beginning can learn a lot from that. Let's not call them young designers, or but if they are just beginning, there's a lot to learn, and that's thing what you just
we
said.
all have a desire to make it pretty, and that's not bad.
Yeah,
you want to make it pretty, but you also want to make it
absolutely.
You want to make it work towards what the objective is.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same for typeface design. I can sit and make a really, really beautiful thing, but if that thing doesn't really serve the purpose of one or many designers, or if it doesn't solve a problem of a designer, or if it doesn't bring something new to the table, it may be the most beautiful typeface in the world, but it's nothing more than that. So yeah, I absolutely understand that part.
Yeah, and type is one of those really, and I think type, and you know this, is playing a vastly more critical role in brand design now than ever before. And I think that being able to convey the unique personality of a company or an entity, and to establish some continuity and consistency to their materials, develops familiarity and recognition that is imperative to a strong brand. And there's a reason that many corporations, whether it's Apple or whether it's Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, or start to list them out, have their own fonts that have been designed specifically
more
for
companies.
them. It's a money thing too, but it from a practical perspective, I always refer to what I call the visual vocabulary, which the logo is just a piece of it, but the color and the typography and the hierarchy of the use of each, and the patterns, the textures, the use of photography, the use of illustration, the use of animation, the repetition, all of those things are part of that. And I dislike this term, but it is descriptive, the brand DNA, because you understand that as long as you continue to draw from that same DNA pool, that you will continue to produce materials that have that cohesion.
Yes.
And if you start to stick somebody else's DNA into that pool, all of a sudden you start to devalue that level of consistency in there. And that's part of, I tell clients all we do is we do two things. We provide clarity and we provide consistency, period. That's, you can call me a designer or
That's
a
it.
logo drawer or whatever, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide clarity and consistency for your brand. And if I achieve those two things, that will be of value to you and your bottom line. So,
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
am I getting too
And
serious?
no, no, no. I love it. I love the conversation. I mean, there's so many things to learn from you. So, yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Um, I wanted to ask, how does it feel to have, well, to make brands, your own brands, Garden Designs and LogoLounge that actually last so long? It's not the easiest thing to actually, it's easy to get one client when you're a freelancer and another and third maybe be in the business for a year. But is there something that you would recommend to other people on how to actually maintain those businesses for 15, 20 and more years?
Okay, well, you just broke open a wound.
Oh, did
This
I?
is, yeah, this is. I've got a lot to share. Let me. You just asked a question, which is an entire chapter in a book I just completed. Which, by
Okay.
the way, the publisher just sent me the
Oh, wow.
the
That's,
this is the mock-up of the book. But
oh,
it's called
it
Iconic
looks
Branding.
gorgeous.
It's
It's
from
amazing.
Rockport. Thank you. But one of the chapters in there is talking about longevity of brands. And the book itself, really, Iconic Branding, and it'll be out spring of 26, so this
Okay.
coming spring,
Perfect.
um, is focused on, and I do trend reports, is
Reports, yes.
yeah, and this is really geared towards the ability to kind of forecast, if you will, where design is going, and to not be so myopic that you're focused on it's just today. Today is the end of the world. Today isn't the end of
Yeah.
the world. We're going to keep evolving, and to think broadly about the fact that in 20 years we're going to look back at today and laugh at the technology that we're using or
Yes.
what we've created, because the world does continue, and how do you catch up with it in such a way that you continue to be in front of it as opposed to back at the tail end of it. But to your question about longevity, first of all, I'm going to challenge you on that. In that, is it necessary for all branding and identity to last a long time? Is
Not
that wise?
necessarily. Not
If I'm
necessarily.
designing a logo for the 28 Los Angeles Olympics, it needs to be focused on
Yes,
that
on
window of
the
time, doesn't it? If I'm designing something for an event,
absolutely.
um, if I'm designing something for something that I know is going to have a finite life, then I'm thinking about branding from a different perspective. Um, there are actually statistics that will tell you that if you're designing for technology companies, you're designing for about a 5 to 7 year window. If you're designing for the financial community, you're designing for about a 15 to 17 year window. if you're designing for the fashion industry, and it depends on if it's the parent brand or a subset brand. I mean, you've got different windows that
Okay.
are based off of averages, and it doesn't say that's what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
But you know, so Tom Geismer of Chermoff Geismer told me at one point. He said, "Nothing dulls so quickly as the cutting edge." And I love that comment. When you create something that is so on the edge of what's being done, it's going to have a short lifespan. Um, but that doesn't mean that design is bad,
Of
because
course.
it may well serve its purpose for the time that it's in there. Now, I'm going to switch gears here on the same topic and talk about. You asked me uh, uh, what the feeling is when you've created a brand that has longevity and sticks around, so on and so forth. As arrogant as we may be as designers, we have very little to do. The mark that we design has very little to do with how long a company sticks around.
Also
Okay.
true. Absolutely.
The Coca-Cola script that everybody uses is that iconic. Well, it's been around forever. Well, so has Coca-Cola. But the inventor of Coca-Cola, on close to his deathbed, started selling off stock in Coca-Cola, if you will, to multiple people, more stock than it actually had. And so at his death, there were multiple people that thought they owned Coca-Cola. And it was close to its demise as a company until one particular individual basically pulled it up and out and carried it forward. Now, had Coca-Cola died, 100 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about the Coca-Cola logo,
Off
would we?
script,
Doesn't
yes.
it? And if we were, looking at Apple, once they got smart and came to the apple as opposed to the Isaac
Yes.
Newton illustration sitting under the tree, um, when you start to think about that, had Apple not um, been smart enough to produce some of the products that they had, um, I mean, they produced the Lisa, which didn't last.
Yes.
And
Yeah, that's
had that
true.
been their failure and it gone under at that time, Apple would be no more than a footnote in history. So our our ability to design something that is long lasting is really, that question is, gee, if that company is able to stick around for 100 years, do you think that your logo is still going to be good then? Um, and we can't give ourselves so much credit that we think that our mark
Of
is
course.
what helped them survive. Now,
Yeah. Well,
all
that's
that being said, um, I think there is much truth to the continual uh, good stewardship of any brand or any identity. So, um, Coca-Cola is going to pull their script out every 7 years and investigate it, regardless, to see if they need to nuance the obliqueness of it, or if they need to adjust the dynamic swoosh, which is underneath, got removed here a few years ago. I mean, there are things that we think that an identity is untouchable, that it hasn't been touched. And most people will tell you that the Coca-Cola logo is the same one that, Pembroke, the
yeah.
accountant, scrawled out, that first night, and they slapped it on the bottle, that it hasn't changed since. And we know that's not true. We know that you have to continually be on top of the evolution, and that if you don't evolve it, it's going to look dated and it's going to look out of place. And that's part of, as designers, our responsibility to help to move something forward. I can think of identities that, I love the work of Saul Bass, and actually, as a magician, as a student in my early years, had a chance to go visit with Saul Bass, and I was trying to dig the secret of a great logo out of him, and he ultimately said, well, do a magic trick for me. So I did a magic trick for him sitting there in his office on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And he says, well, that's great. He says, tell me the secret. And I said, well, I can't tell you the secret because then it wouldn't be magic anymore. And he says, exactly. He says, it's the same way with design. I can't tell you the secret. It wouldn't be magic, would it? We have to remember that, even logos of his, as much as I hate it every time one gets reworked or retooled or goes away because the company vanishes, it hurts me a little bit, but at the same time, I recognize that, we're not creating something that's in granite that lasts forever. We're creating something for a period of time to achieve a certain objective. And that if we've achieved that, then we've successfully done what we were asked to do.
That's a very objective way to sum it up all, but I think it matters. It's if it has no purpose, as I said, for the typeface, it's just not the work that should be done. I mean, everyone can do a beautiful, even today with AI. AI can create beautiful logos, but the question is, can AI, well, beautiful for someone's
I'm
eyes.
sorry, I gave it away with my look there, didn't I? But no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries.
No,
But
well,
I don't
to your
think
point,
AI can do like proper research and come up with solution that will really solve problems, at least not for now. What
yeah.
is your opinion?
Well, you just cinched it there, which you said, at least not for now.
Well,
We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Yes.
We're going to get there sooner than we want to believe, but we will get there. So the thing to think about is, as designers, what do we bring that AI can't bring? And AI is, AI isn't a static thing. AI is learning, and it's learning very quickly, and it's voracious, and I think it's very valuable to us. And I love AI, but at the same time, I know that there's fear amongst those people that hate to. Well, I guess there's two strings of thought here at least, which is. One, there's a fear amongst people that feel that AI can serve a function that they can serve, and that it will be generally used by the public to achieve that objective in there. And the second fear is that, gee, that means that there are going to be fewer jobs for me because AI is doing that. The standing meme or joke is that AI will never design an effective logo based off of a client's description to it, because a client can't even give me an effective description of what they're looking for. So there's this discovery that has to go into it to get to that point. But I've had the question of would I allow logos designed in AI into a LogoLounge book, and the answer is absolutely. I allow logos in there that weren't sold to clients. Ones that were that didn't make the cut. I allow logos in there that were designed as vanity projects by designers, just to keep themselves busy. If somebody creates a logo that came out of AI, and how would I know? For starters, if they've submitted it, the purpose of LogoLounge is really to serve as an inspiration tool to designers so that they can see what is being created right now at this moment in time. So it's a real time. But also to be able to look at that and kind of go, okay, well, I can see that things are tracking in this direction. And as a reference, if it was created by an individual or for a real client or not, or if it was created by AI, it still serves as a point of inspiration. This box is not a logo, but it might serve as inspiration to me. So am I allowed to let this be inspiration? Sure. That's our purpose with LogoLounge. And by the way, just in case anybody's not familiar with LogoLounge, go check out logolounge.com, and it's $100 annually, and it's the best money you'll ever pay for being able to research and look at more than 450,000 logos submitted by 20,000 members across the globe. So, okay.
Yeah, I
My
couldn't agree
my
more. I
pitch
will
is out there now.
definitely. No, it's okay. I will definitely link it up in the episode description. I've took a lot of your time today already, but I have
Oh, go for it.
one more question.
Just
And I
one?
know this one might be, sorry?
Just one?
Oh, I have more, but I don't know if I can keep you like for 3 more hours.
You can keep me for a while if you want. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Perfect then. Definitely. Well, we should definitely repeat this once the book is the iconic branding, once
Be
the book is
delighted to.
out. And yeah, I would
That'd
love
be
to chat
fun.
about that more. But the last question for today would be, and I know it might be hard, but if you had to give just one advice to people, regardless if it's work related or life related, what would that one advice be?
That there's no idea as dangerous as the only idea that you have.
Wow. That's a really good one. You've had
It,
that ready, didn't you?
well, I've been asked this question before, and
Before, okay.
it's it's okay, and I could go on. Depends on the day that you caught me as to what my piece of advice is in there. But let me share a story that George
Go on,
Bakwa,
please.
a great designer, kind of alluded to, and I've embellished on this a little bit, but in a conversation, he'd shared that, as designers, it's a little bit like fishing. I said, we all tend to set our hooks to a certain depth where we know the fish are. Makes sense. And when we cast out there, because we're all fishing at about the same depth, we're all going to pull back in about the same kind of fish. We're all going to be, and there may be lots of them, but it's all the same thing. But if you set your hook a little bit deeper, when you get into the waters and you start swimming further and further towards the bottom, you start to lose the sun, and it gets kind of murky, and you kind of feel like there's no reason to be down here because you're not producing anything. You can't see anything. But he says, then you get to the bottom, and at the bottom you start to see these amazing fish, these amazing creatures that live down there that are luminous and different, and I've never seen them before, and they're wonderful, and they open your imagination. And he says, set your hook deeper, which basically is a way of saying, don't stop so soon. And it's back to that. If the only idea that you have, it's going to be up there on the surface. And the deeper you go, the more you're going to discover that is really nuanced and different and unique that other people haven't seen. There's no reason to keep fishing in the same waters that everybody else fishes in. And I love that analogy because I think that it's something that helps designers understand without saying to them, damn it, you need to work harder at this, which is probably what it really is, of helping them understand that when they look at the work of those designers that they really admire, they were fishing in deep waters and they didn't spend their time floating around on top. They went straight to the bottom because they knew that that was where the good stuff was going to be. And that it's not any easier for a great designer. It's just that they have the wisdom of knowing where to look.
That's an absolutely amazing way to end the episode, Bill. Thank you so much for the wisdom, for your time. And I definitely think we should repeat this.
We'll be glad to find the time.
Absolutely,
Alan,
my
you're
pleasure.
You're a delight to speak with. And
thank
what
you.
a career you've got. So it's my pleasure to join you on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank
bet. You. It's been a beautiful hour. I could literally go on and on, but we'll find another time, and that's definitely something I am looking forward.
Very good. Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, and bye-bye, everyone.
Real stories with bold creatives. Captain OffScript Podcast.